My community. We live, baby. Dakota is in the house.
Hello,
Hey, yo. Tell us your name. Tell us where you're from. Say what up to my
hello community.
community.
My name is Dakota. I'm a Jersey girl through and through. I guess I'll tell you like what I do because I do a lot of things. I'm a tough love relationship coach, sexuality educator. I work at an adult toy shop, so I sell sex toys. I make
Okay.
massage candles for kink and heat play. So they're like pick a niche, and I was like, don't tell me what to do. I want you.
You said I'm gonna do all of it. So, tell her, what is it like being in the? Okay, so you're in the sex toy industry specifically, right? What is that world like? What are some of the things you like about it? What are some things that you want to change about the industry? Tell us a little bit more. Tell us because I know there are a lot of women out there, especially now, that have sex toys, right? And there are a lot of men who, may be a little bit uncomfortable with the use of sex toys. How are we supposed to get comfortable with this lifestyle, this new change? Talk to us.
So there's different layers to it, right? You asked me a few things, but I'll start with one of my favorite things about working at an adult toy shop, and that is that people come in with their most intimate desires and questions, and a lot of times they think they're looking for one thing, and after digging deeper and educating them, they realize that they want something completely different. So I feel very honored and privileged to be like have a role in helping people experience pleasure in
Mm-hmm.
multiple ways. It doesn't even have to be a toy. It could also be a supplement or an like
Interesting.
something that just makes them feel like their desires are being met. But a lot of trends that I see is yes, a lot of women are exploring sex toys, and a lot of sex toys are geared towards women. And there's still a lot of
Mm-hmm.
stigma around men using toys. And it could be because of the word toys. Like maybe, my partner was like, maybe we use the word tools. Um, but men
Interesting.
are totally into butt stuff and not necessarily giving, but also receiving. I mean, y'all have a prostate for a reason. If I had one, I would definitely use it. But there's a lot.
Okay. Hold on right there because okay, I get a lot of comments I get a lot of comments in my posts. I am not traditionally homosexual, and I don't technically like butt stuff. How are you? Okay, first off, is there another way? And two, why am I uncomfortable with that?
Is there is there another way to what?
To the prostate.
No, it's in the butt. I mean, there are ways that like you stimulate the taint or the perineum, right? The space between the sac and the actual anus. You could stimulate
Uh-huh.
that, but the prostate is in the anus. And I think a lot of times why men feel uncomfortable exploring that part of their body because it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
the prostate does not just function for seminal health. It's like the male clitoris. Like that's the equivalent you could say. And it's because we associate butt stuff with homosexuality when in fact you don't have to like men to like prostate stimulation. You could stimulate it yourself. You could be with someone of the opposite sex and have them stimulate it. But I totally
Mm-hmm.
understand why there's a lot of like hesitancy
Sure.
because of the ideas that we have. Oftentimes, too, there's this idea of like men giving, like they are the penetrator, not the penetrate-e. But I think that there
Mm-hmm.
can be a lot of that, and it doesn't have to be for everyone. I always say if there's something that you're weary about, don't
Mm-hmm.
until you try it twice. It's kind of like going to a restaurant. You
Right.
you may go to a restaurant and the meal that
Right.
you tried is trash, and you may go somewhere else and it's great. But if we try
Mm-hmm.
it in a safe environment and we're informed, we'll never know. And it
Mm-hmm.
might be something that you really enjoy, or you try it and you're like, I'm good on this. I don't need this.
Okay. Well, it sounds like those of us who aren't doing butt stuff are missing out. Are we
If
missing
it's
out?
something that you could find pleasure in, I would say yes. If it's just not for you, that's fine. That's okay.
So, how can you maintain a sense of pleasure even though you're not exploring everything? Like, how can I maximize my pleasure even though I'm I'm feeling uncomfortable or maybe insecure, or maybe I don't know,
The first
Dakota. I feel like I've tried it. I feel like I tried it and it didn't
and
work. Was I not doing it?
that's totally fine. But there's the
Okay.
education piece too. Like we also have a
Okay.
very narrow view of what sex should look like. And if we do
Mm-hmm.
certain sex acts, that says something about our sexuality. And it can,
Interesting.
but expand our view and ask ourselves to that piece of like, well, what do we do? What are you
Mm-hmm.
curious about? What is
Mm-hmm.
completely off limits and
Mm-hmm.
why? What are the things that you like? Why do you like them? What are the
Mm-hmm.
things that you don't like? Why don't you like them? And start to unpack your ideas around it there. I don't
So,
recommend jumping into something blindly. Like there needs to be, you need to be making informed decisions about your sexual health and your
mhm.
pleasure always.
Right. Right. And I love that. So when people walk into your store, you get to interact with them with a level of vulnerability that most people don't outside of their relationship and sex life. How do you, I guess, bring people into a safe space, or what advice can you give people to create a safe space around exploration?
Humor really lightens the mood, sensitive topics,
Okay.
and you have to have a level of like awareness of the person's vibe, right? Like there's people that come in and they are visibly uncomfortable and so with
Mm-hmm.
those communities, I take a more clinical approach. So I'll talk about the facts and the anatomy, and I will use more medical language versus casual language with those people. And over time, I start to see them open up. And then there's people that come in and, they'll use all type of words. They have all types of questions. It's my job to meet them where they're at to get them to where they want to go. Whether that's that day or we take baby steps and it's like, all right, let's make a starter kit for the thing that you're
Yeah.
trying to explore.
I think that's a great. Can you give? Okay, what would be a good starter kit for someone who's never done butt stuff, who is a little bit afraid, but also wants to maybe try exploring with their partner? What is a great starter kit?
Mindfulness, have some sort of mindfulness practice because breathing
Okay.
is huge. Like oftentimes when people are having sex or self pleasure, we don't breathe.
Hmm.
we we
Interesting.
forget to breathe. So a sense of mindfulness, start small,
Hmm.
whether
Hmm.
that is a finger, a very small toy, something that's body safe.
Hmm.
So if you're using a silicone toy, you will not use silicone lubricant, only water based.
Why not?
Silicone toys with silicone lube, they're two like materials. So what happens is the silicone lube actually breaks down and will melt a silicone toy.
Interesting.
Oh,
What's the half life on that? I don't want to get too technical, but how? So silicone lube and silicone toys, they don't mix,
never.
which is contraindicating in my mind. I think you want to get the same, right? But you're saying they break each other down. So talk. That's fascinating. So with the silicone toy, you want to get a water-based
Water
lube.
based. Water based is really good for everything except for like hand jobs and like it could be good
Okay.
for butt stuff, but you really want to have something that's like super slippery and slick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it also tends to have less ingredients. You want to make sure that you are not getting anything that has glycerin, which is like a vegetable sugar, which is not healthy
Oh,
inside of the body. That's for outdoor
interesting.
display. But a lot of times people come in and they want something that's super slickery and slippery and slick. Only use silicone lube if you really want to, if it's like person to person butt stuff, or you have a metal toy. No, I have never.
Okay.
I just looked at the chat.
Yo, my community, they're
I love
they're a little unhinged. We're a little
that's
unhinged.
okay.
All the questions are well. I don't block anybody unless you're getting on my nerves. But still, this is vital information because a lot of people are out there trying new things without guidance and ultimately hurting themselves. Okay, and this may be a little off topic, but is it possible to get an STD without previously having had one? Like two healthy people come together, is it possible to get an STD by, let's say, mixing the silicone and the silicone or water? Is it possible to procure an STD from just two healthy
You know
people?
who I think this question is perfect for?
Who?
Courtney.
Where's
I
Courtney?
don't know. He might have to send a request. I know
I'm gonna send
he's
it.
answered this before, and I can answer this, but he phrases it beautifully. So
Uh-huh.
I'm tagging in my.
We're gonna bring Courtney. We're gonna bring Courtney in, but tell us a little bit more about some of the things that you wish would change in your experience with the when people come to you, and they're, being vulnerable and open. What are some things that you wish people would know before they came in?
Your desires are normal and natural. You deserve to experience pleasure, and that also goes for men, because a lot of times when we hear the words pleasure and intimacy, they sound feminine, they sound soft, and men
Mm-hmm.
are also entitled to experience pleasure and explore self pleasure without being demonized. That's another thing I see too, where a man will come in and get a sex toy or something for
Mm-hmm.
masturbation, and it's like, well, why can't you get a girl? Why are you home? And it's like, you're also
Mm-hmm.
entitled to explore your own self pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
and you might learn something new that you can bring into play with other people. So your
Right.
pleasure matters, your desire
Mm-hmm.
is normal as long as they involve consenting adults, human beings.
Mm-hmm. Right.
um
That
yeah,
part.
and there's so many avenues for being informed. My job is not to tell anyone what kind of opinion to have. My job is to give you
Mm-hmm.
information so you can make informed decisions about your own health, and you're entitled to
Mm-hmm.
that. And a lot of us, we go from like high school to college and we never had a class on self pleasure and setting boundaries and consent and releasing sexual shame that might come with the things that you want to do.
That's huge. And one thing you said earlier about keeping your breath, I think can really help develop the courage to release that shame. I al- always implore breath, whether it's in your daily practice or with your romantic partners, meditation, working with your breath with my patients. It's very, very important to stay with your breath. How can staying with your breath through a sexual experience help magnify it? And conversely, how can, forgetting about your breath take away from the sexual experience?
Well, breath is movement, it's energy, it's oxygen that's in our blood. So when you're increasing, the rate of your breath or the deepness of your breath, you're bringing more blood
Mm-hmm.
flow to the areas that bring us pleasure. And that could be
Mm-hmm.
anything. Like, it's not just our genitals. We have erogenous zones all over our bodies. Some
Mm-hmm.
people like feet, some people like bellies. So, kisses on the neck. It doesn't matter really where the touch is, but as you breathe, you're bringing more blood flow and concentration and oxygen to that part of the body. More blood flow,
Mm-hmm.
oxygen, that part of the body is going to be more aroused, right? More. And then
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
when breath is absent, mindful breath is absent, or shallow breath is taking place, you're really stunting the experience for yourself. That's all related to being tense, right? Like when we're
Mm-hmm.
ventilating, we're living in our upper chest. So a lot of
Right.
people are anxious. We tell you to breathe into your stomach, expand your breath.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're short
Mm-hmm.
of breath, or you are short of breath and you're stunting your breath, you're almost stunting the amount of pleasure that you could experience, because you're holding a lot of tension in the body. And a lot of us relate to orgasm with tensing up, like this muscle contraction that is held and it remains. And a lot of times what gets in the way, like I have people come in and they're like, how can I squirt? I'm like, well, one, the position, and two, like, you need to breathe. Like, you need to relax the
Mm-hmm.
body. And a lot of
Fascinating.
people, because we weren't taught how to breathe, like it's something we do, but we weren't taught mindful breathing.
That's fascinating. Can you take us through a little tutorial how to breathe through an orgasm, basically? That way people can get it. Okay, for example, when I'm about to anesthetize a patient, I'll take them through a breathing technique where I'm like, breathe in, hold for 4 seconds, open, you're about to feel a pinch, breathe out. That way they can be with their breath as they're experiencing the pain of getting a shot in their mouth. How can you help the community breathe through an orgasm? Give us a 401.
So there's like two types of breathing, right? Like we can breathe through our nose and we can breathe through our mouth. Typically, breathe through our
Mm-hmm.
nose, that calms the nervous system. That it's I call it like the cooling breath. When we breathe through
Okay.
our mouth, that moves energy. Like people like to say prana or life source or energy. That's like the heat breath, the fire breath. So You want to
Mm-hmm.
take a really deep breath through the mouth. You exhale through the mouth, but when you exhale, your exhale needs to be longer than your inhale. That
Oh,
induces
okay.
relaxation, but it also contributes to having like that sexual energy move through the body. So breathe through your mouth
Interesting.
and don't be like hyper fixated on like, oh my gosh, my breath wasn't long enough. Like have fun with it and ensure that your
Yeah,
exhale is longer than your inhale. That's like the release that comes from orgasm, that comes from pleasure, rather than
I
the whole
love
thing
that.
and the buildup.
Right.
Yes.
I I am super intrigued. I think it's so important to have a concerted effort when you're having these experiences because they can make or break your relationships,
Yeah.
right? Have you ever practiced tantric sex?
Yes. And I've mostly practiced tantric sex with myself. So
Interesting.
that
Interesting.
I'm an advocate for doing things in a low anxiety environment first rather
Mm-hmm.
than jumping into things with someone else, which you totally could. But something
Mm-hmm.
that really reinvented my relationship to pleasure was practicing Tantra with myself. So I have like a meditative practice that I call like conversations with my coochie, where
Oh, 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 oh. Oh,
I
you got
know
to write a book, Dakota. What are you talking about?
I really,
I would buy
yeah.
that right now, Dakota. Are you kidding me? You're going to save humanity with that book. Okay, tell us about it.
So I go into the meditation like doing a body scan. So I check in like where am I holding
Yeah.
tension? Where I feel
Uh,
like parts of my body need extra love. Um, and then
mhm.
I like
Wait, wait. How do you identify that part? I think that's huge. Identifying the parts of your body that need the most love. What does that even mean? What are you talking about? I thought all my body parts need love.
do, no,
What?
they do. But I'll literally talk to myself. Like I'll literally talk to
Okay.
my coochie and I'll be like, what do you need? Like, what are you feeling? And the first time I
Interesting.
did this, I was like, this is super woo woo. Like, this is kind of fucking weird. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
felt called to
Keep it
my
tested.
body and
Mm-hmm.
I let whatever thoughts and feelings kind of arise. So, like, the first time I did this, she was like, girl, like, you're neglecting me. Like, you don't spend time
Mm-hmm.
with me. You, like, share me with other people, but you don't spend
Yeah.
time with me. You don't take time to, like, get to know me and what I like.
So you got a whole
I
relationship
do.
with your coochie.
That's my.
That's so important. Okay. Yo, all the ladies out there, can you guys take notes? I need to know that you have a relationship with your coochie before you introduce us next time.
It's true. Because it trickles into like me being able to practice mindful breathing and touching myself. Like I'll also focus
Mm-hmm.
on the feeling of my own hands on my body because we tend to put a lot of foreplay and work
Mm-hmm.
into sex with other
Mm-hmm.
people, but we don't really foreplay ourselves. We don't
Mm-hmm.
focus on
Mm-hmm.
how does my skin feel to the people that are touching me? How do I
Right.
feel about the skin that I'm in and my erogenous zones and how my touch can be intoxicating to the people I'm touching? So it's different
Mm-hmm.
perspectives you could take that are mindful to reinvent your relationship to pleasure. So I would just do a body scan, right? Close my eyes, take a deep breath, start with the top of my head. Where am I holding tension? And typically, where I'm holding tension, where in my shoulders, my neck, that's where I need the most love. And then
Mm-hmm.
myself, what do I need? Versus focusing on what I'm doing wrong. Because bad
Mm-hmm.
habits, it's not enough to just stop the habit. You need to replace it. I call it like you're replacing the bad habit with a self serving habit.
Interesting. Can you give us a quick example of replacing a bad habit with a self-serving
Oh,
habit? I'm sure there's plenty of
yeah.
them, but
So um in my relationship I was called out. My partner was like, I need you to take accountability for something. And then
sure.
relationship based. But my initial reaction, like I was silent for like 3 minutes, like wrestling with my ego. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, the bad habit is being a little brat and sitting here and being like, no, I don't need to take accountability. You're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm right. I can sit in this and I can lean into this. And I was like, okay, the consequences of not taking accountability and leaning into this bad habit because I'm uncomfortable, and women also struggle to be held accountable by men in particular, the consequences are a lot worse than me just saying, you're right. So the bad habit was being a little baby. I was being a little bitch about it. I was sitting there like, you got to breathe. And then I was like, okay, what is going to serve me, my growth, and this relationship? Because ultimately, what serves me serves a relationship. It's saying, you're right. I fucked up. At the moment, I was like, ugh. And then after the fact, I felt really good about it because it got me one step closer to like the type of partner I want to be, the type of woman I want to be, the type of person I want to be. So accountability does not feel good, but just because something doesn't feel good in that way because it's challenging you doesn't mean you do it. We got to like lean in. We got to lean in a little.
Someone's in the comments saying admitting a man was right. Oh my gosh. Oh, is that Courtney? Courtney, is that Courtney's
Yes.
stigmatization? Yo, I want, first off, can we stop? Can my community, can we all stop and give Dakota a round of applause for taking responsibility and admitting that she's not perfect because she's a human being, and taking responsibility for your actions and how you respond to said emotions is mwah, 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 perfect. And I wish more people did that. I think that was a turning point in my relationship with myself. First off, is being, looking around my life, looking at my relationships, looking at my experience, and saying, where can I take responsibility even more? And once I started to do that, I was able to appreciate what was in front of me more, and even be and show up better than I had before. So continue. I just want to stop by. We're gonna bring Courtney in a second, though. I want to see what he got to say.
You
What he
guys
got
got
to say.
this interviewer. He's great. But
I'm excited.
yeah, that was something I also recognized with the accountability piece, is that in most of my relationships, I was with people that crossed a boundary and then I would have negative reactions to, and that was the pattern. But now the relationship I'm in now, it's like the healthiest relationship I've been in. They're absolutely great. So I can't be distracted by their shitty behavior because there is no shitty behavior. Now I'm actually in a situation where I have to look at myself and start doing that internal work because there's no one to point a finger at.
Right. Well, can I say with the dearest of hearts that I know you didn't wake up like this. I know it takes work. And because of that, you have to give yourself grace to not be perfect. You have to give yourself grace to still fall into some of the old ideologies that you made yourself of. What advice can you give to the community? Maybe some concrete tools. I know for me, meditation, like when you said breathing, that was just like the perfect thing for me, because that allows me to regulate my physiology. A lot of people think, and I want you to comment on this too, a lot of people think like, oh, you need to regulate your emotions. And I don't think it's possible to regulate your emotions. Our emotions are going to do what they're going to do. They're like lights on a dashboard for us to pay attention to when something is changing or something is wrong or something exciting, happy, sad, whatever. But we can regulate our actions around said
Mm-hmm.
emotions. What tools did you develop to garnish control over your physiology when you're experiencing cognitive dissonance or anxiety or stress or anger? Talk to us.
That's actually something I'm practicing actively right now.
Mm-hmm.
I had shared with you and we had talked, like, I'm getting a divorce. So
Okay, okay.
being in environments that are safe emotionally. So when
Mm,
you're used to being in emotionally unsafe environments and you get into a safe environment, your nervous system is waiting for any threat. So I
yeah.
have times where I'm easily able to say, I'm feeling this emotion. I need this thing. Let's talk. I need to co regulate. Then,
Mm.
when you could use the word triggered, I like to use the word activated. Trigger just sounds like so intense, and it is intense. But
Activated sounds nice. I might start using that
yeah,
too. She.
emotional activation. And
Yeah.
when you're in that state, everything you're perceiving is
Mm.
skewed. You are not seeing,
Mm.
hearing,
Yeah.
tasting, feeling things in their true form.
Mm.
Like
Right.
things are no longer objective. So, what's been helpful for me is having community. I have
Mm.
deeply intimate platonic relationships with people that know me enough to say, like, girl, you're bugging out. Like, you need to
Yeah.
chill. But the
Yeah.
self part, I use this analogy and people say like it's so dramatic, but like I could literally be a fish in the next life. I want to do everything humanly possible to be my best self in this one. And I can
Yeah.
recognize when there's cognitive dissonance and there's fear and I'm activated when I'm scared. Because oftentimes the thing
Mm.
that we are afraid of is the thing you need to do. Oh, I'm scared, like
Mm.
opening myself up to this person, even though thus far they've proven to be trustworthy. I need to lean in. I'm scared to go out to this restaurant alone because what if people are looking at me weird? I need to lean in.
Mm.
I'm scared of just being happy.
Yeah.
Like accepting
Yeah.
peace because we're waiting for the ball to drop. But that is the nature of life. It's a roller coaster, right? It's up, it's down, it's around. So if you're
Right.
scared, I really encourage you to face the fear and ask yourself, like, what
Mm.
is the worst possible thing that could happen? And if it
Mm.
happened, you will be okay. You'll be
Mm.
you will
I
be.
love that.
We have a lot of us have gone through much more difficult things, and that's not to say like
Yeah.
let me pack on more hard shit, but it is to,
Yeah.
like we've built a toolkit that you need to utilize. Use it or lose it. And the more you tap into
Mm.
those tools of breathing, of saying,
Yeah.
yes, I was wrong and I
Mm-hmm.
apologize. What do you
Mm.
need? What do I?
Mm.
It becomes a lot easier because it's a practice. It's like you said, I didn't wake up like this. It's
Yeah.
a choice you have to make day in and day out when the opportunity presents itself. And there's going to be times where you make the right choice, and there's going to be times
Yeah.
where you feel like you let yourself down and you fucked up.
Mhm.
But as long as you are doing
Mhm.
your absolute best with a clear mind, clear intention, informed clarity, what really more can you
Yeah.
ask for?
I love that. And it's so important to maintain the ideology that, yo, this is a practice. And in practice, you're going to fuck up. In practice, you're going to learn new things. So making sure that you understand that it's a practice allows you to have this fearlessness almost. You're almost practicing to get through the fear every time. Every time, this is how I can get through the fear. I love that. I love that. I love that. My community, they not like us. They not like us. They not like us. Y'all gonna be seeing me do that shit all summer. Yo, I appreciate the time, the energy, the vibes. I hope my community learns something. Conversations with the coochie. Pillow talk with my penis. All right, y'all. I'll see you guys next week. I'll tap in. Y'all be good. Y'all look for me later this week. And look for the t-shirts too. We got